So marking our run-up and getting ready to start this innings of the SportsMax Zone with cricket. West Indies 2-test series against touring Bangladesh set to bowl off in Antigua and Barbuda on Friday, a day which also marks 50 years since two West Indies legends, Sir Vivian Richards and Sir Gordon Greenidge, made their test debuts. Craig Brathwaite will lead the West Indies squad with Joshua De Silva as his deputy. Informed Justin Graves will return to the squad after smashing 3 centuries in the ongoing Super 50 Cup for the Leeward Islands Hurricanes, while the Guyanese spinning all-rounder Kevin Sinclair also earns a recall, with Jason Holder out due to rehab for a shoulder injury. The first test will start in Antigua on Friday, November the 22nd, before they make their trip to Jamaica for the second test, which will be played at Sabina Park in Kingston from the 30th of November to the 4th of December. And anxious to see Test cricket returning to Sabina Park. But before that, Mariah and Ricardo, Test cricket in Antigua and Barbuda, the home of Ivy Richards and Sir Andy Roberts and company.
Yeah, you know what? It's been a tough year for the West Indies in Test cricket after the victory in Australia, where an inexperienced squad took part. It's unfortunate that the team really hasn't kicked on in 2024, well beaten when they went to England, beaten at home by South Africa. And this Bangladesh series provides an opportunity for them to, one, get some wins, but it also provides an opportunity for some key players to perform and really re-cement their place in this West Indies Test squad.
Yeah, so Ricardo talks about, players making their mark and getting, runs and wickets under their names. But I also think it's the opportunity for fans to come out, Lance, fans from the Caribbean to come out and really watch and enjoy Test cricket. I know for quite some time, I'm lucky because I'm based here in Jamaica, despite being a Trini. So I kind of get the on-the-ground feel from fans, from Jamaicans. And the last time there was cricket played here, I had a good time. I mean, people came out, there was a lot of vibes. People were here from early, some came for the afternoon period. So I know for the Jamaicans, it's a big deal, and I know they're going to be turning out. And as I said, for fans on the whole, to see the players that they support all the time, it's a big deal.
I don't want to pour cold water on this, Lance and Mariah, but I tell you something, don't expect too many fans at Sabina Park for a Test match against Bangladesh. And I know that sounds away, but the truth is, the trend is that when it comes on to T20 cricket, Jamaicans have supported well over the years. But you look at the support in recent years for Test cricket, it's been terrible.
Yeah, and I don't help that Bangladesh are the opponents.
A Bangladesh series will draw out too many come the end of November and early December. I really do hope I'm wrong.
Will you be going? Do you
Of course. I am a lover of cricket.
Especially Test cricket.
All cricket.
Yes.
All right, well.
All right. Well, we have Fazir Mohammed on the line with us via Zoom to discuss this Test series. And, of course, it won't be lost on someone like Faz, who is a tremendous historian, that Sir Gordon Greenidge and Ivy Richards will, on Friday, celebrate their 50th anniversary, Faz, of their Test debut in India, in Bangalore. Now, Bengaluru.
Yes, indeed, Lance. Hopefully you're hearing me loud and clear because we're having some connection issues on this side. But yes, it is a significant moment. I just hope that the authorities give it some measure of recognition, because you're talking about two of the greats of the game, not just the fact that it's the 50th anniversary for both of them. In fact, on their first day of Test cricket on November 22nd, 1974, Gordon Greenidge was run out for 93 and Viv Richards was dismissed for just 4. Greenidge went on to get 100 in the second innings and Richards fell for 3. But overall, it was a seminal moment in West Indies cricket. It was the first time that Clive Lloyd was the captain. It was the first time for 18 years that there was a West Indies squad without Gary Sobers and Rohan Kanai. Andy Roberts was in the team, took 32 wickets in the series. So a lot of history there. But as you quite rightly pointed out, while hopefully that will be acknowledged and celebrated and recognized during the course of the Test match, more important for this immediate West Indies team is to show their worth against this Bangladesh side.
Yeah, and as we start here with that discussion, Faz, Craig Brathwaite has been going through a bit of a bad patch. He is leader of this team. Are Windies favourites to win this series?
Marginally, because, again, with the West Indies, one in Bangladesh 2021, one convincingly in the Caribbean in 2022. Bangladesh, though, they're in a situation where it's difficult to work them out because they lost comprehensively to South Africa and Sri Lanka, but they beat Pakistan 2-0 for the first time ever in Pakistan 3 months ago. So they have a situation because of the political instability. I mean, they've just overthrown Sheikh Hasina, the leader, and allegations of corruption and so much else. Shakib al-Hassan has been caught up in that, whether he's a supporter of the previous regime or not. So there are a lot of different issues there. But I think the biggest issue for Bangladesh is the quality of their batting. I was reading an analysis by Mohammad Isam on ESPN Cricinfo, who's their correspondent, and he's described this as a crisis in their batting. And when you look at it, it almost mirrors the West Indies situation. They've only got a couple of players averaging 30 thereabouts. Lithan Das, 35, Momin Haq, 37, but everyone else is in the 20s, low 30s, and that is really mediocre. So if the West Indies can really fire up in helpful conditions with the fast bowlers especially, I expect the West Indies to dominate. But again, it's about whether or not the West Indies batsmen can respond effectively to the Bangladesh attack.
Yeah, I guess in the next 24 hours, Faz, we'll be leaning on you to give us a preview of the big India-Australia series, which starts live on SportsMax on Thursday night. But let's stick with the West Indies-Bangladesh match here for the moment. One of the topical discussions in recent times when the West Indies hasn't done really well is a focus on preparation. What's your take on the West Indies preparation for this series? We're in the middle of a Super 50 tournament, which is white ball cricket, and a lot of our players haven't played red ball cricket recently. So there has to be some focus on the kind of preparation. I know there was a 2-day warm-up match earlier this week, but what's your take on how well prepared the West Indies team is for this series?
Well, ideally, if you're talking about getting ready for Test cricket, they're not well prepared because the numbers tell us that as far as most of these players' performances. But the reality is, as you all well know, we are living in unprecedented times as far as international cricket. I mean, for the first time ever, we are having Test match cricket in the Caribbean in November and then December. That has never happened before in nearly 100 years of Test match cricket. Let's hope the weather stays fine. But again, the congested schedule means that there's no proper match practice red ball preparation. And as you talked about that highly anticipated Border Gavaskar series, even India have opted out of a warm-up match and choosing instead to play an intra-squad match and have intense net sessions to get ready for a 5-test series. But here again, we're talking about different levels of intensity and quality. We know India are at or near the top of the world, likewise Australia, while in contrast, when you look at the World Test Championship, West Indies and Bangladesh are at the bottom or near the bottom. So yes, ideally, there should be some more red ball preparation, but the schedule just doesn't allow it, Lance.
Yeah, and you know, Faz, as you all talk about the schedule, I have to ask you about the conditions in the Caribbean. So the first set will be in Antigua, and then, of course, it moves across to Sabina. So from what you know, Faz, can you just give us some info, some insight into what we can expect from the conditions at these venues?
It really depends on what the authorities want, what sort of surfaces they want to prepare. In 2018, Bangladesh were routed for 40-odd on a seaming track. And again, it's because of their diminutive stature, because of their lack of exposure to quality fast bowling, you expect them to struggle. And it's not just for the sake of dominating Bangladesh, but for the sake of West Indies cricket that you want to see a surface that encourages fast bowlers, encourages spinners to get bounced and not just stirred, and encourages quality batting and actually shows up for batting. And it depends on whether or not the preparation would have been impacted by the weather. So from this distance, sitting here in Trinidad and Tobago, it's difficult to say with any certainty what sort of surface we're going to get for the match at Sir Vivian Richards and then, of course, at Sabina Park. But one would hope that it's the sort of surface that encourages the best out of these cricketers.
Yeah, and I have to ask you about the missing Jason Holder, of course, because of injury. Kevin Sinclair comes into the setup. Let's talk a bit now, Faz, about, what Kevin Sinclair can add in the absence of Jason Holder. And I think it's a big absence, of course.
Well, not just Kevin Sinclair, and I think he adds a lot because of his ebullience, his worth with the bat lower down, he's in the field, and of course, his off spin. But let's not forget Justin Graves. We've just talked about his 300 in the regional Super 50 with that first semi-final going on right now. But certainly, you would think that he would slot in as an automatic replacement for Jason Holder, as he did in those 2 test matches in Australia. And yes, he did have fantastic numbers. But if you look at the bits and pieces contributions, I thought he did reasonably well and was harshly done by in not being selected for the Tour of England. So let's see if he'll make amends and indeed capitalize on this opportunity to take on Bangladesh and really get among the runs and wickets, because he's got probably the safest pair of hands in the Caribbean, aside from Jason Holder himself.
Yeah, for sure. And Faz, when you looked at the team that was named, when you look at a team, the first thing you say is, who this player is missing, or, I feel like this unit is lacking something, or maybe we're strong enough. What were your initial reactions when you saw the squad?
No real surprise, Mariah, because, again, you look around the region and you look at the numbers, batting and bowling in the longer formats of the game. Can anybody really argue convincingly for any other player? Of course, there's an opportunity maybe for someone else who's on the fringe and another person on the fringe. But the numbers are so ordinary and in some cases quite poor if we're talking about players representing the West Indies at test match level. And that speaks again to the structure of our game and whether or not we're really doing anything about improving the structure of our red ball game and even our white ball game with the team struggling there. But yes, I understand the point that some will say, well, why not this one? Why not that one? But at the end of the day, we're probably talking about a couple of runs batting average, a couple of points bowling average, but overall, the numbers are quite mediocre.
Faz, anybody at this stage can go, but let's talk about the captain, Craig Brathwaite. He's had a pretty lean 2024, just 1 half-century, his highest score 61. He's averaging just over 18 this year. 14 innings is what he's played, and he has really struggled. I took note of the fact that he played the 2-day warm-up game, in fact, captained the West Indies Select 11 there, and made a 4-ball duck. So, yes, the West Indies captain is struggling. I just want to get from your standpoint, how much pressure is he under coming into this Bangladesh series?
Well, I like the way that you've shown him up there with his backside facing the camera, him being squared up and being bold, almost sending the message that this is the fate of Craig Brathwaite at the moment. But I don't think he's under enormous pressure simply because there's really no one around to put pressure on him. And this, again, at the risk of sounding repetitive, is the sad reality. Maybe Tishnarayan Chandapol should have been given a longer run than being dumped after the 2 test matches in Australia earlier this year. But the fact is, you are not seeing players really standing up. Mikhail Louis has gotten his opportunity and has certainly shown that bit of promise. But the danger, Ricardo and Raya and Lance, is for so many of our cricketers, like Bangladesh, look at Bangladesh's numbers, who are comfortable averaging 20-something or lower 30s because there's no real challenge. So in the case of Craig Brathwaite, to answer your specific question, knowing his phlegmatic nature, he's closing in on 100 test matches, I don't think he's anyway feeling any significant pressure because of his struggles, because all it takes is 1 decent innings to get him going again. He might hope that he'll get it here. If he doesn't, if there's going to be 4 failures or 3 failures against Bangladesh, and they say, okay, time to drop Craig Brathwaite, who's banging on the door for his place?
And I guess the other aspect of it, Faz, great point you make, is that if you do away with Craig Brathwaite at this stage, then who captains this test team?
Joshua De Silva, I suppose, because he's now vice-captain. But once more, it reinforces where we are at. And I know it's something that people say, well, so it's being negative, it's not really focusing on the issues and so much else. But the fact of the matter is that for the West Indies right now, it's about facing the reality and understanding that there are huge challenges facing the West Indies team, leadership being one of them, as we were just discussing, as an automatic successor to a Craig Brathwaite. But overall, we are not seeing the effort, the investment to really transform what has really been a situation that has been going on for 35 years.
Yeah, and you know, I like this guy, 273 test wickets, 82 matches, but he's been around for a while. Kemar Roach is in the squad again. How much longer do you suspect that Kemar will be able to hang around?
Well, it really depends on his performances, because he didn't play in the second test match against South Africa in Guyana, when it was felt that maybe Jaden Seals might have been the unlucky one to be left out. It didn't turn out that way. So that in itself is sending a message. You often hear people say, well, how do you leave out someone with 273 test wickets? How do you leave out someone with so many thousand runs? Well, the issue is succession planning. The issue is giving the younger players, the ones who are performing, the opportunity. Look at what happened to James Anderson. Jimmy Anderson is bitterly disappointed that his test career was forcibly ended in the first test against the West Indies. But the authorities are thinking forward. Therefore, you would have to think that if they haven't had the discussion as yet with Kemar Roach, it makes sense to have it, not because you want to just shove him out, but you want him to go out in great style, but also to recognize that he's closer to the end than the beginning.
Well, I guess one thing in Kemar Roach's favour, fans, is that James Anderson was over 40 years old, 42 years old. He's only 36, so by my calculation, he has about 6 years to go.
Well, I think the big difference as well is there's the status of both teams, the availability of resources, and indeed when you've got young fast bowlers like Jaden Seals, like Alzari Joseph, maybe Anderson Phillip might get a game, you've got Justin Graves, you've got others waiting for an opportunity. It's not about getting rid of the old guard for getting rid of the old guard's sake, but recognizing that you have young ones who you don't want to frustrate by leaving in the wings.
Yeah, and fans, we're gonna wrap the segment now, but I just want a teaser from you as fans get excited about the India-Australia series, which starts on SportsMax on Thursday night. We'll discuss this in more depth on tomorrow's show. But how excited are you about that series?
I think it's very exciting. I think in any sporting contest, as I'm sure you'll all agree, the idea of a real contest is what you look forward to. A high-profile contest, a proper contest, not like that YouTube boxing foolishness with Mike Tyson last week and so on. The thing is, you want to see players either at the top of their game or players rising to the occasion.
Yeah.
For India, it's almost a situation as of 4 years ago, when they had so many players injured, so many key players out, and because of the depth of talent and their hunger, they rose to the challenge. So therefore, I expect to see a keenly contested series, intense cricket, which is really what you want to see in Test match cricket.
Yeah, Faz, I think this is a generational thing, because like you, I had no interest in this Mike Tyson fight on Friday night. And a lot of my friends who know that I'm a big boxing fan, they were shocked. But like you, no interest, Faz.
And I watched.
It's a gimmick thing.
While that so-called fight was going on, I was deliberately watching Sugar Ray Leonard Roberto Duran from 1980.
No mas.
No mas. No, the one before no mas.
Oh, the one before no mas.
On the split decision.
Well, listen, guys, if you talk about this being a generational thing, right? Friday nights are for Netflix and chill, and that's exactly what happened on that Friday night.
Correct.
What? Correct, right, Mariah?
That's what people do. They watch Netflix on Fridays.
Netflix and chill, Friday nights. By the way, Faz, do you miss radio commentary?
Yes, I do, because it's my first love. I've always enjoyed it. But it is what it is. My time has passed more or less, although I do get the occasional opportunity with the BBC. But really, I've always enjoyed radio commentary. And to me, it's been the most satisfying thing involved in cricket media that I've ever been engaged in.
Yeah, ditto. What you just said. I miss it too. How about you, Lance?
As in, you miss Faz, right?
I didn't do a lot of radio commentary
Not
on
you.
cricket. I did, I think, 2 seasons, 88, 89, of some regional cricket. It was the Red Stripe Cup at the time. and I did an ODI series with South Africa and the West Indies. Well, the Jamaica leg at Sabina Park for radio, but I didn't do a lot of cricket commentary on
Wait,
on
are
radio.
you saying you miss yourself doing radio
No,
commentary?
I miss both. I miss hearing the combination of Fazir Mohammed, Andrew Mason, Simon Crosskill, and I also miss doing radio cricket commentary. There's nothing quite like it. It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would have to agree with you, and I take Faz's point because, and there's a lot of history surrounding radio cricket commentary as well. There was, for a long period, fans would, when TV commentary started to get more popular, a lot of fans would turn the volume down on the television and still listen to the radio commentary.
That's what I did as a 12-year-old.
Yeah, and it made sense, and I guess Faz would agree with us, don't you, Faz? Faz isn't.
Yeah, and of course it can't work anymore because it's not synced as it used to be to where it was happening simultaneously.
Well, that's true. Yes, yes.
But you're right. I think people enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, I think we've lost Faz like radio commentary lands.
All right, well, that just means we're going to take a break, huh?
Yeah.
All right, break time here on the SportsMax Zone.